Have you been asking yourself, I would love to get into spearfishing, but I don't know where to start, I don't know which equipment to get, and I just would really like some guidance? Well, this video is for you. Now, I'm going to cover a very broad topic, but I'm going to cover it in a very small way. Now, there are many angles that we could take with each piece of equipment and each piece of advice, but let's just cover the basics today. And then as you get better and you learn more over time, you can make your own result in the end. So the first thing I want to cover is what we don't have in this boat, and that's a dive partner. Before anything else, you do not want to go spearfishing by yourself. You must have somebody to go freediving with. That person is there for your safety and you're there for their safety. So I highly recommend before you buy equipment, before you do all that, contact your local spearfishing groups. Contact somebody who would be able to go with you or a friend who might be interested also. Get a safety class. Take a freediving safety course. Learn some freediving techniques. That's really important, you guys. It's a great starting point. Now, obviously, you're gonna need some equipment for doing that, but one is Ted Hardy's a world-renowned freediver, and he's also a safety expert in freediving. He's got some great free classes even online that don't cost anything, you guys. They take about an hour and a half to get through, and it teaches you a tremendous amount of knowledge in, again, a 30,000 foot perspective of safety of freediving. That's immersion freediving if you go online and look for Ted Hardy. And you can go to our Michigan Spearing page in Facebook, and there's plenty of links always on there, or Unsalted Spearfishing on Instagram. So let's cover the next step, our gear. Let's first start talking about the mask. The mask is a critical piece of equipment. Now, no two masks fit alike. All masks fit each face differently. So you're gonna have to find a mask that fits your face well. I have several masks that I use frequently that all fit my face, and then there are a few masks that I've tried on before that look really cool, but they just don't fit me, so it's not for me. I love the Rife products, and this mask here is something that I love, is the GoPro mount. So I can film my hunts underwater. This is a Mantis 5 made by Rife, and you can mount a GoPro on it, and it has nice big teardrops so you can see at a lower angle in the water. This mask fits me really well. I love this mask. Check out some of their products. They've got a lot of different variety. Your snorkel is extremely important. Now, this is called a stable snorkel. The great thing about this is if water gets down into this snorkel, which happens, you guys, waves, you know, we're in freshwater up here in Michigan, and you know, it goes in. We have a lot of choppy water. This snorkel has a valve on the bottom, so you can simply blow out and it'll blow it out the top and out the bottom and help relieve some of that extra water that gets in there sometimes and dribbles in. Especially important on a breathe up. You're trying to relax, you're trying to get comfortable, and then all of a sudden you get water in your snorkel. So we try not to, but it happens. This snorkel snaps on very easily onto the masks with that clip. And then as you can see, it's right there and it holds its position. So I love this combination, excellent. Again, masks are to your face. Let's talk about fins real quick. This is a pair of plastic Cressy fins. Now, this is just an extra pair of fins. I wanna show you something. These plastic fins will do the job. They are great fins as far as durability goes. You can smash plastic fins on rocks and everything else like that. But the downside of plastic fins is they're not extremely flexible. So what I mean by that is plastic doesn't bounce back very good, right? That does it decent. But watch a carbon fiber fin. Look at that. See the snap? How quick that snaps? So these are two options of fins right here. This is gonna be a more costly option. This is gonna be a cheaper option. Now, I prefer Rife products, like I said. The foot pockets on these aren't my favorite. I love the Rife foot pockets. They do make plastic fins as well. And so if you want something that is a little bit more affordable level, then go with a plastic fin. And if you want something that's a little bit more performance level, then go with like a carbon fiber fin. I love the Rife foot pockets. I find them to be very comfortable, very flexible, and pliable on my feet. Okay, let's move on to our dive knife. Now, dive knives, I've had this one for years. Again, Rife makes this dive knife. This dive knife is extremely usable. It's easy to get in and out of the sheath. It's got a great strap on it. You want your dive knife accessible to you. So again, a lot of times I mount my knife on my sleeve and then I mount a second knife on the front of my shin. The reason I do that is so I have access to two different knives. Whatever the case may be, if I'm braining a fish, I always like one on my sleeve because it's easy to grab. Brain the fish to put it out of its misery and get it to quit kicking and then move on. But a low knee knife is also good in a situation where you might be tangled up in something or have something mishap like that, and it's easy to grab. So having two knife placements is what I always run, but it's up to you. Let's talk about a dive watch. Dive watches are very important. Dive watches are something that are going to tell you how deep you went, they're going to tell you how long you're underwater, and they're going to tell you how long you've been on the surface. It is very important to be on the surface at least 3 to 4 times longer than you were underwater. Now, most dive watches have a function in them where it will give you a countdown of a safety parameter of how long you've been on the surface based on how long you were underwater. That is really important, that surface interval. This is a Cressy dive watch. It's not the most expensive dive watch in the world. It works fantastic. I have a Sunto dive watch also that's a lot more expensive, and honestly, it's not really any better than the Cressy one. So that in the dive watch world, there's a lot of options. Go with the one that's right for you. They all work pretty good. They have a little bit different features and functions, but they all pretty much can do the same thing. So I like to use this no fog spray. This is the Tropical Sea. Now this stuff has a pH balance in it for your eyes. It's a non-stinging formula and it works really good. I really love this spray. It's amazing. I also like these fin keepers that Rife makes. These fin keepers help keep your fins on. So you put your foot down in them and then this little strap goes underneath your heel and keeps your fin pockets nice and snug to your foot. And it's kind of nice. I find I get less foot fatigue and cramping because I feel like my fins are on, so I'm not subconsciously squeezing my toes. So I like these fin keepers. I also like, after a dive, eardrops. These are isopropyl alcohol eardrops to dry your ears out, help prevent ear infections. They're a great feature to have with you. I use them every dive after I'm done. A dive light. This is another thing that is really important. Dive lights are going to keep you from being in the dark, right? So for a dive light, this one is an underwater specifically made dive light. So you got to have an underwater one, obviously, for obvious reasons. So, but it helps you see into some, holes and rocks where there might be fish hiding, and that's pretty cool because it gives you an opportunity to be able to get them. So a dive light is really important. The next things, you guys, are gloves, protective wear. So always wear gloves. Don't ever spearfish without gloves on. You can get stabbed by the fish fins. I mean, cuts and abrasions from rocks, things like that. You're touching pokey things in water, and stuff has bacteria on it too, so you don't really want to have a bunch of holes in your hands. So this also keeps you warm. You can get multitude of layers of thickness, so for different temperature water. Also, fin socks, okay? These little booties are neoprene, and these are going to keep your fin warm. So again, just like your hands, you want to have that protection on them, and these fit right nice inside of your fin pockets. Now let's talk about wetsuits. So for this wetsuit, this is not like a surfing wetsuit. This is called an open cell wetsuit. What that means is, you see the outside has this kind of cloth layer on it. Well, the inside does not, like a normal wetsuit has, right? That's called a closed cell wetsuit when they have the cloth. Open cells wetsuits mean it's literally open to the material, the neoprene, i.e. on the inside. Now these Rife suits are amazing. They're extremely flexible. The cuts on them are designed for freedivers, so they're not constrictive at all. This, I always tell everybody, this feels like I have a gummy worm on me. You know how gummy worms and gummy bears are so squishy and just, I feel like I'm wearing a giant gummy worm or gummy bear on me when I wear these things because they're just so flexible and they feel really good and they're very warm. Again, variable thicknesses depending on your water temperature. This is a 3.5 mil. I love this suit. In Michigan, this is a great suit for most of the year. Right now, we're still kind of in between this suit and a 5 mil, but we'll be in these for the rest of the summer. Having a hood is really great too. This hood helps protect your head, okay? Again, there's stuff in the water, there's different things floating around, things that can get in your ears. This kind of helps protect your head and face, and it keeps you a lot warmer too. Keeps it wrapped around you. This loading pad is for your spear gun. You place it on your chest, and then you can pull back on the bands. Some people hip load, some people chest load. You'll find what works best for you and the gun that you've got, but this is a great piece of equipment right here. Now, if you get in really hot summer months, sure, you can get by with just a wetsuit top. You'll see this doesn't have a beaver tail, so this doesn't attach to you, it kind of slips on. Now, this sort of thing can be worn in warmer waters, like over 70 degrees, but obviously our temperatures vary, so you're gonna wanna have the appropriate wear. The only downside is you don't have anything over your legs. So if you don't have anything over your legs, again, your skin is exposed, you can get cuts and nicks and things like that. Your dive belt, your weight belt. Now, again, these belts are so important, but yet they can be dangerous. A lot of divers overweight. The best way to check it is when you have your weight belt on in the water, passively exhale. You should only sink to about eye level in the water. You should not sink your head or submerge underwater. If you do, you are going too heavy on your weight belt. Let's cut it back until you are more buoyant. You want to be buoyant because, especially with learning, be buoyant on the surface, right? So that way you are not going to be overly weighted underwater. Next, let's talk about our float line and our buoy system. So you have to have a dive flag in the water. The great thing about having a dive float like this is it's extremely visible and the dive flag fits right in it. So as you can see here, this is excellent. You can drag this around with you. You never want to attach anything to you, but I've got a little system that I'm going to share with you that works for me. So what I do is I take this dive float and I also take a float line, it's called. This is a buoyancy line. This line's very buoyant. I get it from Rife. This is a 25 footer. I've got them in 50, the 75, you can get them, these things are all different lengths. But this nice clip system can clip right onto the front of your dive flag. Now, what I do next is I take a weight, which is my kettlebell here, and I loop this through it and I strap it, and then that way I can drop this down on a rock near me, and then my dive flag is floating right by me and it's with me. If worst case scenario, I can take the weight off of it and I can attach it to the back of my spear gun, which is why I have this little lanyard on the back. Now, if I have to, I can swim with this in the water and this will just pull along with me. Now, sometimes that can be a little bit annoying because you do kick the float line and it can be a mess and a tangle, and you got to manage it, right? You have to do float line management. But that is another way you can do it if you don't have a spot where you can just set it on the bottom. Most of the time I find that I can put my weight on it and I can just set it where I need to set it. So it's very important to have a dive float. Now, the other great thing is I've got on my dive float already is my stringer. So now we don't live in sharky water, now I can put my fish right on this stringer and they can dangle behind my dive float. So I don't have to manage going back and forth to the boat here, or if I'm not using my boat, going back and forth to shore. So I can just literally have everything as one controlled unit. Next, let's talk about spear guns. This was the first spear gun I ever got. This is my Rife competition that I got years ago. I love this spear gun. It's extremely accurate. It's not super huge, as you can tell, but guess what? This will get the job done in fresh water especially. You don't need anything more than 2 bands, you guys. 2 bands is plenty of power. We don't have really heavy carcass fish, and we don't have giant fish that we need to pass through like a tuna. So this is gonna suit you just fine. It's kind of nice in murky water because it's shorter, you can hunt with it. I tend to hold mine in the handle here to keep it close to me, and then I will extend it. I don't just swim out like this, aiming at everything. So this is a great spear gun. Again, this is a lot more entry level affordable. As you move up in guns, you can go to something more like a Euro. These are my favorite Rife guns of all of them. I love these enclosed track Euros. Now the difference is there's a little track in here that the spear shaft slides into. That kind of guides that shaft out without it flexing at all. It just kind of launches it. I find it to be very effective. I love these new handles. The grips on them are great. This is a 2-band and this is a double wrap gun, which means that there is twice the amount of string on the shooting line. Now when you shoot this out, it only goes as far as that shooting line will extend. You can see there's a bungee on here. This stretchy bungee has some play in it. Now that will help you when you go to strap your line on here. This has what's called a flopper tip. This tip flops in and out, and that's what catches on the fish after it passes through. So this is a great option. I love this gun. I would recommend this to anybody. This is the 100, okay? This is a great size. I use a 100 for everything. That's why I have a backup gun. That's my backup gun. You'll see the mounts here that come on it. That is for a reel. Now this reel allows you to be able to, if you get stuck in a rock or something like that, open up the reel and be able to let your gun come up with you, even though your shaft might be stuck in something down there. You don't have to let go of the gun. We dive some of the murkiest water in the world here, you guys. The other day we were out, literally 3-foot viz, 2-foot viz. Trying to even see the bottom. We obviously gave up on the dive, but I mean, you all know how it is. Our algae blooms are awful. We have a lot of muddy rivers that flow into waterways. So our dive conditions get to be pretty bad. So you do not want to have to let go of your gun somewhere underwater and lose it. That does happen, and it's unfortunate. So it's one of those things where a reel is super nice. You can open up the bail on it and just swim to the surface. So it's a great feature. I highly recommend getting a reel. This doesn't affect your shooting line distance. That's this part here. So when you read your laws that say no more than a 20-foot shooting line range or whatever, that doesn't refer to the reel, you guys. That refers to the shooting line. The reel has drag in it. So the reel doesn't just allow this thing to travel 10 miles. It gets to the end of the shooting line and that's it. And then you either have to have your bail loosened up to let line out or, you know, have the tension lower. So that's a great gun, great option, again, in an enclosed track. Let's talk a little bit about pole spears. This would be an entry-level pole spear right here, okay? This is a fiberglass pole spear. I got this years ago and it still works. I mean, you know, you charge these by pulling them down on the handle, grabbing on, and letting go, and then it launches. It's a great way to get used to spearfishing without using a spear gun, and it's a great way to learn. So I highly recommend a pole spear. The other thing is to go with a carbon fiber pole spear. Now this one has more sections you can add to it. This is Rife's carbon fiber pole spear. It just screws together. What I love about it is you can travel with it, which I do all the time, and it's so lightweight, and it's got a great grip handle on here, and it really launches. I've shot 2 world records with this pole spear. So they are super effective, very accurate, very dependable. The great thing also about a pole spear that breaks down is the fact that you got a case that you can put everything in. Like I said, you can travel. You can keep all your extra bands and different items in there. You can keep extra shafts in there with you. And it's super, super packable. There's 2 different types of tips you can run. You can run a flopper tip on a pole spear, like that. Or my favorite, this is the way I like to run a pole spear, is I run a slip tip on it. Now the reality of a slip tip allows you to do a couple things. When you're on some of those softer, fleshier fish, because we have some of those, like your catfish and those sort of things, this is gonna allow you to basically pass through the fish like so, and then this is gonna flip off. See that? And it'll create a stop on the back side. So it won't pull out of the fish. So as you're fighting it, this will come to the end and the fish will flop around freely. The one downside of a flopper tip is sometimes this goes flat. What happens? Your fish pulls right off the end. So a slip tip does take a little more time to put it on, get your line set and all that, but the effects of it are 10 times better. I prefer a slip tip over a flopper tip. Also with my spear gun, I run what's called a rock tip, especially in Michigan, on my spear gun. You'll notice there's 2 floppers on this. This is another way to not use a slip tip but have a good stopping power is 2 floppers, because both of these would have to fail in order for the fish to not, or to slip off. But these actually have little notches on them to help get them to expand. So that's a very effective way to use it. Now you always have to have a dive flag with you. If you're diving in the water without a boat, you're gonna need at least a float dive flag. If you're in a boat, obviously you're going to need a traditional dive flag that is on the back of your boat, and you have to have it, you guys. You shouldn't be running with your dive flag on. Your dive flag should be in a holder, and it should be in the boat when you're running the boat. It's only out for diving, so when you're in the water, you have to have it up. When you're not in the water, you can take it down. Let's talk about shark snot. Shark snot, this is my favorite lube for your open cell wetsuit. Open cell wetsuits, you have to spray them on the inside. Shark snot is made from kelp. It's kind of a cute name for a company. They're out of California, but it's made out of kelp, so it's organic, it's biodegradable, it's not wrecking the water. It's not like using conditioner, shampoos, and things like that where they're made of chemicals. This is literally made organically of kelp. I love shark snot. It's my favorite. I support every time. All my friends all use shark snot. We use shark snot. But it helps lube your suit up to help you slip in and out of your open cell wetsuit so you don't tear it. The inside of those open cells, you can tear them, you can rip them out. So be careful. That's why you gotta use this and you'll just slide right in. So other than that, that was the last product. Hey, I appreciate you guys. If you ever have any questions or comments, please feel free to give us a shout. And thank you again for watching this video. I look forward to bringing more to you soon, and we'll see you in the water. All the best.